starter if you want to go beyond that. I think we've got presents, Christopher. There's presents. Yes? There's presents from Liquid Culture. Okay, so everyone should have got a present. That's a little baggie that you can use to make a starter. There's instructions on it. Make starters. Starters are fantastic.
I think Jake's is going to handle it.
Yes. I'm just finishing this. And that's all I have to say. Okay, question. Wait. There's the question.
So, I mean, we're not supposed to freeze it, but I do freeze mine quite gently. So I make a 1 liter broth with glycerine.
So you're adding your cryopreservative to your
And then it lasts at least a year. But after that, yeah, it gets a bit dry.
If I can, so the question is around freezing the yeast, and the big thing is glycerine is being added to it. And the thing here is water crystals, when they freeze, they make spikes and they break yeast cells. Something like glycerine we consider as a cryopreservant, so that actually inhibits the process. So if you're smart enough to do something like that, do it. It works. We store yeast, bacteria, everything for years using cryopreservants. But if you're just using water, you're probably going to, the yeast isn't going to be viable. But if you know something about cryopreservants, go for it. Okay. Any other questions? This talk has been way longer than I thought it would be.
Thank you. I really appreciate the scientific depth of your talk.
Hello, Paul.
Absolutely amazing. So just one thing is about the acid washing, the removal of bacteria generally. Could you elaborate a little bit more? Which bacteria do you mean in particular? When you talk about the bacteria?
That's a rough question. I started this whole talk going like, let's just put something we do. As far as I understand the process, if I understand it correctly, you should be getting rid of most bacteria, and the yeast will survive. So that's how I understand this process. Whether this be any lactic bacteria, spoilage organisms, whatever that can make weird compounds in your beer, as I understand it, the acid should get rid of them.
Bruce?
But as to which specific ones the acid might, I'm sorry, but as I understand it, the yeast would survive, bacteria would die, because they have yeast.
So I know John's not going to comment, but so if you've harvested yeast out of a healthy beer that hasn't got any off flavors, and the beer, like your base beer, smells good, chances are that if you re-pitching the yeast off that, it's healthy yeast, right? So you only want, like, if you've got swift beer, don't really use the yeast.
That's basically like, that's basically
wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
But it'll be a few cases. But I also just want to say, like, I was shit scared at home to reuse yeast for many years. And I just started pouring, into a sterilized jar, re-pitching the yeast, and it kind of works. Every now and then you get a fuck up, but it's generally, I've had very few, just do basic re-pitching, and my general ratio is like one bucket is split into two. It kind of works quite solid.
No, I think that's my point. If you're careful what you're doing and you're comfortable with your process, and you're fairly comfortable with what shit beer is, then you're fine. Like,
wash it, reuse it for 2 years.
Yes.
use it in
Yes, use it in a reasonable amount of time. Make sure your beer didn't taste like shit, and you'll really be fine. It's not something that you have to be scared of.
So why do home brewers want to repitch yeast? Like, why do you want to repitch it?
Because we're all fucking cheapskates. Because hops are expensive and you can't repitch hops. And also, the yeast prices have gone up substantially. So the fact is, you also have it, but let's put it in perspective. So, a US5 packet a year ago was $30, is now 70, 80, 90 rand for your gram. And whatever it's always, but it's just got quite expensive. And for those of us who drink quite regularly, and also second and third generation, fourth generation, use the quite better. It just gets better and better.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to know that. Then the other thing I think people need to realize when it comes to yeast in South Africa is the fact that if you buy liquid culture yeast, you are supporting a local company. You are supporting local people who are earning industry, who are earning a living from our industry, providing a service that you don't get very easily from other countries and from other suppliers, right? So I think that's part of the reason we need to look at, and part of the reason I support them is part of that.
So I'm fully on board with that, and I totally agree. And I use the yeast all the time, and they can attest to that. And I support them, but you can't always get it at every shop.
No,
So there's a distribution issue to deal with.
no, I understand. You know, what do we have local? What do we have local? We have SAP malt. We have SAP malt, and we've got hops from George, right? Yeah. And they own every part of it. So the question is, that is our heritage. That is our heritage as brewers. And if we can move away from supporting somebody that is not a big corporate for something in craft brewing, I think everybody should look seriously and look at liquid culture and say this is probably the first real advancement in homebrewing and craft brewing that you need to support if you're a South African and you care about local products. I think that's part of it.
So I think most of the more serious homebrewers and are doing it and ready. But when it comes to basic homebrewers, it's hard and all that. So all the specialty stuff they do, I think is supporting them. The great program, I think the homebrewing community is totally going wild on. I think, and Kristen maybe talk to this, but you can't compete with back in the 40 bucks or 50 bucks and so I think that's a solution.
Do it.
Yeah, you do.
Doesn't need a mark.
Chris, you do.
Yeast is complicated, I'm not going to lie. If you're growing up in large volumes, like currently we are, I'm not going to lie, it's a complicated process. It's basically like brewing 100,000 liters of beer, but you're aerating all of it to create yeast instead of alcohol. So that's what we do. So, yeah, I mean, we're new in this game. We've only been around for 2 years, but from where we were 2 years ago to where we are now, in our opinion at least, it's insane. So, I mean, obviously we enjoy everybody's support. We rely on feedback, positive and negative. If you've had a shit batch, let us know. Because we need to know about that so we can figure out what went wrong so we can improve our process. Errol was thrown in the deep end tonight, but he loves it. He loves that shit. He lives for that. Make no mistake. Bruce. So he enjoys that. And like I said to Bruce now, if you want a better answer, go to Google washing yeast. I promise you, you're not going to get an answer. Because everybody is vague about it. It's a complicated process. I mean, these are living organisms we're working with. And all of them have very different reactions to everything. Like I said, if we grow 1,000 litre pitch, we don't grow 1,000 litre pitch, we grow 10,000 litre pitch. That gets divided between both commercial breweries and distilleries, and it goes into home brewers. So when we get feedback, we take all of this into account. So if somebody says, listen, we've had lower attenuation, or we have had a longer lag phase or anything like that, we take that into account. So we go back and we WhatsApp everyone. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? That's why we rely on these reports. So then we say, so out of a 10,000 litre batch, 9,000 litres went perfectly. 1,000 litres, somebody said it was a lower attenuation or was a lower lag time. So then we follow up on the next question. What was your water profile like? What was your, what was your original gravity like? Because make no mistake, people take advantage. So we sell cells according to original gravity. So if you buy a home brew pitch, we assume you're brewing between a 50 and a 60, 1.050, 1.060 original gravity. What was your original gravity? No, we brewed 10% beer. Well, it wasn't quite enough yeast. We would advise longer time, maybe more aeration, maybe a little bit of additional nutrients. Yes, obviously more yeast, but you can get away with a low amount of yeast because our viability is extremely high in yeast work. These yeast work amazingly. pH, the pH of the water, like I said, in Bloemfontein we've got crazy pH ranges. We had 9 pH in Bloemfontein from our commercial water for the last few months. And we have extreme astringency. And I'm going to talk about this in my presentation tomorrow. Astringency is one of the major causes, one of the results of the high pH. So I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. So yeah, like I said, Errol was the deep end tonight. This is a difficult topic. I really like the questions. He loves it. Yeah. Let me start with this. So what Anthony asked here is how do we start a big batch of yeast? Every single batch of yeast we grow starts from one cell. So we have over 120 cultures in our collection. All of these are one cell that were started and grown up. So we have can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
So we assume that this one cell is known as the F1 generation. It's the most pure cell of this culture. So we grow up from that. Yes, mutations occur, but those generally get weeded out. Those only start making major influence after several generations. So we start with one cell, and we always assume that that one cell will conform to the amounts that we sold overall. But all of this will be covered in my presentation tomorrow, so these are all useless questions. And then you can all me. Trust me, I love it.
Thanks. So I just want to say thanks to I just want to say thanks. That was a hectic, difficult subject. I proposed it and thank you. Well done. We need a round of applause.
The geometry of your fermentation vessel impact on how the yeast likes it or not?
Look, I'm not going to lie. Whether you're growing 100 milliliters of propagation fluid or 1,000 liters, it's got different dynamics. But it all comes down to how much sugar have you got and how much oxygen have you got if you're propagating cells. But once again, I'll cover that tomorrow. That we don't strive for how many cells? If you're producing yeast cells for Marmite, you don't care about how they're going to perform. You just want yeast because you want the taste of it. But in our case, we don't care about how many cells you produce per gram of glucose or per gram of malt extract or whatever. That's just about performance. So all of our tests that we do, and we've got a lot of critical control point tests. And the final one is basically a sensory evaluation. Physically, we taste the propagation fluid every single batch. And yeast do not lie. if there's a single contaminant, if there's a single factor that irritated them, they will produce some form of full flavor, some form of something, and you will know about it. So for us, it's basically, we rely on what the yeast tell us, for whether they're not happy or not.
Strength.
Sorry? Conical fermenters are great for concentrating both yeast and try. So if you want to produce a very clean beer, conical fermenters are great. So everything sediments down, concentrates up, and forms a thick rubber mat.
And it's easier for you to then pull off and then repitch, right?
Look, like I said,
Arguable.
we found that.
I got the mic, I'm going to say.
No, I'm honest when I tell you, we're not the best people to ask about how do I reuse yeast. Because we don't reuse yeast. We listen to what you tell us about how you do it. Because we don't have to reuse yeast. But we want to hear about how you do it. So that's why. Yeah, we want to help. So that's why our WhatsApp, and I mean, you can say this, whenever you WhatsApp me, I will respond very quickly. Because I rely on what you tell me happens.
So if I could afford one, I'd buy one, but there's lots of other factors.
So reality is that the brewers are going to reuse, and then the reality is that the brewers are going to reuse the cultures, liquid yeast. You would want them to use in the best quality, but they're going to repitch it for themselves. So that's why it's also going to
No, I mean, obviously we want. I mean, for instance, like my favorite example is Mad Giant. Mad Giant only uses our lager yeast. I mean, it's because our lager yeast works out way cheaper than any commercial lager yeast. And they reuse it up to 6 or 7 generations with no problems. And then when they switch because of more of a moral reason for, I think I need to reuse new yeast. So that's one of our things. So the yeast can be reused a lot.
I'm asking how easy it is, how foolproof it is, right? If you have a conical fermenter, some type of conical fermenter, concentrate that.
What beer are you brewing? Lager. Take all of that shit and put it right into the next yeast.
No, I know, but if you put an ale, you say, I've still got a conical, I've crashed between these.
How many IBUs are you brewing?
Are you secondarying in the same vessel? Are you adding dry hop? But are you dry hopping in the same vessel?
You need that. So the fact is that you're not able to have a very fine and very consistent. If you're able to provide some type of 60-degree angle.
The nice thing about yeast is it flocculates itself. As it ferments, it literally stirs up itself. It produces carbon dioxide and that stirs up the cells. So whether or not you repitch that whole piece of conical that you had in your fermenter, only the beneficial parts will get stirred up. So in my opinion, take all of it and put it back in. But if you really want the best answer for that, ask that man with the large beard.
Okay, everybody, I think that's all for us now. Tomorrow is the next event.